Shiona Turini, costume designer for Insecure, follows the awkward experiences and racy tribulations of a modern-day African-American woman. It's a synopsis, but it's a final season on HBO now. This is the fifth and final season. Shiona, I guess for you, what were your overall goals for the costumes for this season and coming into it as you're wrapping it up?
It was really exciting to work on the final season. I actually joined the show midway through season 3. So I had a unique challenge, but I started actually at the perfect time because it was a time period where the characters were all evolving and kind of stepping into new versions of themselves. So I was able to make more changes than I expected. And for the final season, we went into it really wanting to go out with a bang and kind of elevate the girls. Like they're finally kind of getting it together and they've had all these life experiences together and they're maybe separating a bit, but they have found a stride and they're getting to know themselves a lot better. And with that, their style has evolved. For Issa, who has been casual for most of the series, she really wanted to show what would grown-up Issa look like. What would someone who finally, after like all of this hard work, is like becoming this established, confident woman look like? What would she wear? And for the other characters, I got to play around a bit and present some ideas and got to experiment a lot in their style and how it's reflecting where they are in their lives.
So that's really cool, and I think it's really apparent. And I knew you had started in 2018, and one of the things I was like, what you said is very true. But do you have like before coming in, and even I guess before this season too, how much conversation do you have with like Issa and them about what they think of the characters, and how much do you try to like really get to what the actors are thinking as you're kind of thinking of their costumes, I guess, for the characters?
Issa's really involved, which is can present some challenges because, she's a producer, she's the writer, she's the creator, and she's the star of the show. And so she is really involved, and she most of the time comes into it with an idea of what she wants, but her background isn't in clothes or fashion or styling and costuming. And so she still is really open and collaborative. For the other characters, she is a lot more flexible with ideas like, what should we do? Or what are you thinking? And at the start of the season, I made mood boards about where I saw each character starting from episode 1 and where we'll end by episode 10. For each script, I usually meet with Issa first because, again, I know that she has some sort of idea already. And just to make sure that she and I are on the same page, and I'll present my boards for the episode, just ideas that I've had, costumes from other fittings. And I try and start with her because she has a lot of input on what her character will wear. And then I work the other characters around Issa.
That's interesting and really cool. I think it comes across really well. I know you've talked about this before, and I know it's like a big part of the show is how you kind of want to you use Black designers, you highlight Black designers and kind of elevate them. Can you talk about, what that means professionally for you, but also like personally as well, I guess, and like how getting to do that on a show that's as high profile as Insecure?
That's a great question. I feel like we have this enormous platform, and so we have this social responsibility to kind of support young emerging designers and brands that wouldn't really have the space and the platform on their own, and also just included in other shows in this way. They're not always top of mind or on people's radar. And so my team and I, we make sure to include Black designers in every single episode. It is a huge priority, not just for myself, but because these characters, I do believe, would really be, it's rooted kind of in reality. They would be supporting these designers. They'd be wearing clothing made by their friends. They'll be searching out local LA brands and small brands. And so I make sure that that's represented. And I've seen how it has helped small designers, Black designers. And it's incredible. I feel like we are helping someone's career and changing the trajectory of their brands. And it's amazing to collaborate in that way and to support Black designers in that way.
Yeah, it's really cool. I think, I mean, like, I'd assume that's definitely going to be one of the legacies that I think people take from the show, and I'm sure that you hope people take from the show. But like, what else are you from as the show's wrapping up? What are your, like, I guess, like, what are your hopes of the people, like the legacies of the costumes and the way you've, like, the characters have evolved, I guess, as well, and their looks?
I remember growing up and watching shows, and especially watching Black shows and School Days and Living Single, and wanting to dress like these characters, wanting to live like these characters, and seeing a little bit of myself reflected on screen. And it was so important. And so I do hope that one of the legacies that we leave is that everyone that watched the show felt really supported and held and loved and represented in a way that we don't get a lot in television, or just get a lot in film or television, actually. So I love working on this show because we are also kind of a part of creating this like time capsule of all of the things that are relevant in our community right now. On our last episode, we had to create a fashion show, of course. And we decided to custom the show with a young Black designer who's one of the first Black designers that's been invited to recently show in couture during the couture fashion show calendar. And so this character wasn't based on the designer, but there was a little bit of overlap. And so being able to kind of cement his special moment in time by way of the show was pretty major and very impactful. And I just hope that one of the legacies left is that people feel seen and supported on camera, and we're able to do that in a beautiful and iconic way.
Yeah, one of the things you mentioned I wanted to ask you about too. So like the show is super contemporary, obviously, like you said, and like I think it's very much plugged into like what people like are talking about, right? Or just like in general experience things. And like, I guess, so how do you make sure, like, is there a pressure, I guess, or like, you don't want to, like, you don't want people to watch it and be like, oh, that looks bogus or whatever. So how do you, like, is that like added pressure knowing that like the audience, especially for Insecure, is going to be like so in tune to like the culture, and especially because it's so contemporary, I guess, like, how does that affect your costume designing at all?
I try and let the costuming reflect what's relevant right now, but I also try to help find like what's the next big thing, So it's like one of the big moments last season was we had Issa carry a Telfar bag, and in like editorial fashion and in New York City, they had named it the Brooklyn Birkin. It's like really interesting tagline for this bag. And while a small community or a really in the know fashion community knew about this brand, it wasn't as massive as it now is. And I made sure that Issa carried it multiple times, because that's what I feel like people do. They're not changing their bag every costume or every outfit in real life. And so this season, one of the conversations was like, how do we top that? And so I was like, it's really just about kind of searching for the next designer. It's kind of like a treasure hunt. Like, what do I think is going to be great? And it's worked so far. It's we've been able to kind of stay ahead of the curve while making sure that the show still is like super relevant and contemporary, and reflecting like the great things that are happening in fashion right now.
Yeah, it's really, I think that's really interesting. It's like incredible to toe that line and like really kind of like make it work so well. Is like, I think it's like really special. It's one of the things I really like about the show. I'm a total fashion Luddite, but I was like, oh, it definitely is cool. I think you could tell that it is very relevant and also like kind of cutting edge as well. Shiona Turini, costume designer for Insecure. The final season is airing now on HBO. Thank you so much.
Thank you.